So I was just thinking about something recently, and it has to do with Tony Robbins. I'm sure many of you have heard of Tony Robbins. He's that self-help guru. He puts on these seminars that are attended by thousands and thousands of people. He has a huge following. The guy has built a very, very lucrative business for himself, conducting these seminars and selling books and stuff like that. But I remember a few years back when Tony Robbins was saying that he was coaching a very famous hedge fund trader. And for some reason, I started to wonder. I wonder if that's Paul Tudor Jones. And sure enough, I don't know what made me think it might be Paul Tudor Jones, but sure enough, it ended up to be Paul Tudor Jones because Tony Robbins, it came out publicly and he said he was mentally coaching, right? I'm thinking, oh, the guy's like training Paul Tudor Jones's mental game, right? Paul Tudor Jones made a lot of money, but we have seen recently that the guy, he had to fire about 15% of his staff that is not making money. He had all of these big macro ideas wrong. He was looking for hyperinflation because of central bank monetary operations, and he was expecting treasuries to collapse and the dollar to collapse and all these kind of Peter Schiff type forecasts. So the guy, it's obvious he lost money. I mean, we made the money because I made the money. I knew what was happening, and I said from very early on, anyone who's been following me for any length of time knows that I'd say all the time, I take the money from these guys because they're the zombies basically. Maybe they're playing with lots of money because they're friends or what have you. They're in an institutional circle where big moneyed institutions deem it correct to give them money to play with, no matter how bad they are. Anyway, whatever. But it turns out, if you go back and you look, and I remember this, and I was writing stuff about this at the time, Tony Robbins, this self-help guru guy who knows nothing about economics, not even the bad economics of the mainstream, knows nothing, absolutely nothing about our monetary system and how it functions. Back in 2012, I remember he was promoting all these bogus debt collapse stories. Like the United States is going to go bankrupt, and we owe all this money to China, and there's going to be hyperinflation. So these are the stories that came straight out of the mouth of guys like Peter Schiff and Jim Rogers and all these idiots that got it wrong. So obviously, Tony Robbins, in his schooling of Paul Tudor Jones, obviously he was either infected by Paul Tudor Jones's views, because we know that's how he bet with his hedge fund, or Tony Robbins, maybe Tony Robbins infected Paul Tudor Jones. And I've seen some videos where Tony Robbins just is heaping praise on people like Kyle Bass, right? Mr. Japanese debt crisis, as yields on Japanese government bonds are in negative territory right now, and the yen is strong as hell. So I mean, you really got to be careful. I guess the moral of the story is you really got to be careful who you get your information from. I mean, this guy might be a great self-help guru when it comes to people just in general personal needs that people might have in terms of getting their life straight and putting things in perspective and stuff like that, and getting motivated, right? Motivational speakers. But it's downright dangerous when you let a guy like that start to hawk ideas that are completely bogus and nonsense, like the debt crisis. And the sad part of this is he's got a huge following, and he's going around promoting these bogus false ideas, that the United States is bankrupt and all these terrible things are going to happen economically, when that's absolutely 100% nonsense, and he's got his understanding of the monetary system totally screwed up backwards. If you think about it, and this doesn't only apply to Tony Robbins, but it applies to most, if not all, of the financial profession. If it was the medical profession, it would be sued out of existence as a result of malpractice, right? That's what it is. It's malpractice. So you need a guy who understands the markets, but you need a guy who understands mental game, and you need a guy who understands, most importantly, the monetary system, which means MMT. So that's me. I'm your guy. Anyway, I was just thinking about that and kind of laughing because you see the connection. Tony Robbins goes to help Paul Tudor Jones, and one way or another, they either screwed each other up, or Tony Robbins screwed Paul Tudor Jones, and then Paul Tudor Jones gave Tony Robbins all these crazy ideas. So you really got to be careful out there, because these people put themselves out there as experts and they have absolutely no clue of what's going on. Absolutely no clue of what's going on. By the way, we also saw last week or the week before Ray Dalio, Bridgewater, right? The largest hedge fund in the world, laying off. Again, 15% of his staff. It's always 15%. That 15% will kill you, right? Dalio, I spoke about Dalio. Same backward understanding. Bought gold, looking for hyperinflation, worried about the deficits, all these things. Yet he's running the largest amount of money in the world as a hedge fund, and he's losing money. He's getting his ass handed to him. So there you go. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.